What the papers are saying at this point. Let me just add now that we're having a splash of divergent lead stories, but to review them with me at this time is leadership and communication strategist Dr. John. He's here with political technocrat Dr. Dayo Kayode. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
How was the weekend? How are you doing the Monday after the weekend? Hope you got some rest also.
You know, they say Ojo Monday ko ni gbagba kugba.
At all.
So even if you took an entire week to rest, once it's Monday in Lagos, you're back.
Here. So your body is wired. Is that how it is for you too, doctor?
It automatically wakes up.
The thing still babbles me how he got here before me this morning. He got to tell me the secret.
Did the two of you do some things? Maybe you had, I don't know, over the weekend.
Okay,
your paths crossed again.
Don't let us bring you into it.
We might just do a review of that. All right, let's go to a review of the papers this morning. Beginning with Daily Trust, leading with Army goes after traitors as Boko Haram strikes again. Sadly, happily, 9 abducted women return, 12 still missing, however. So there's also a picture story to buttress this toughened stance now of the army against Boko Haram. Blueprint is also towing that line, talking about the renewed vigor of the army against the Boko Haram terror group. The lead story reads, theater commander to troops, let's wrap up the war and go home, warns commander against striking or starving soldiers. Debunks withdrawal from Gubio Magomeri. Boko Haram burned 73 houses, 28 shops in Konduga still. News Direct is next, leading with $6 million internet fraud. Controversy trails suspension of money transfer to Nigeria. Let's see what Daily Times is reporting on. So it's about this Nigeria versus PNID controversy that still lingers. So the Daily Times asks, $9 billion judgment sum a fraud? Lawyers berate government officials and former President Jonathan and President Buhari in spotlight. Facts about gas supply and processing agreement between Nigeria and PNID also extensively discussed in Daily Times. So much to chew on in this controversial agreement that has now earned Nigeria such a huge fine. The final paper to look at is Nigerian Tribune, FG to subsidize electricity tariff for 7 months in the year 2020, goes on to direct discos to meter MDAs in 60 days. Gentlemen, let's go back to the Daily Times, talking about this Nigeria and PNID deal. Okay, so we understand that the deal was struck in January 11, 2010. President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, the late president, former president, was the head of state at that time. Minister of Petroleum was late Dr. Rilwanu Lukman. The Justice Minister is also in view, Michael Kase Aondoka. How does this whole agreement, how do you view it? It turned out to be a deal that was never done, and yet Nigeria has to pay a $9 billion fine. Doctor?
Yeah, you see, it is that fraud aspect of it that is now tickling me deep down inside now. Because when the story broke out I think a week and a half ago, I read it, and I read some other versions of the story. Then it was late Rilwan Lukman or so that was the Minister of Petroleum then. And a deal was to be struck with that company, a Swiss company. And against all odds, according to that report, Rilwan went ahead to sign that contract.
I think it was Irish. I think it's
Ireland. I think yes, Irish or whatever, okay. You know, went ahead to sign that contract. And along the line, a lot of people rose up against him and all that. And unfortunately, they couldn't go ahead with the contract. And according to that contract, this is how much this company was supposed to make from that contract. And if you are not going ahead with that contract, so what happens to all I have invested? Even emotions. You know, when you sign a contract, your emotion is part of that investment. I don't know whether you want to look at it from that angle. Even your thinking has to be part of that investment. Along the line, they couldn't. And I said, okay, let's go to court. They went to court. Interestingly, when Jonathan came on board, he met that problem. And he discussed with these people. According to that report, it was settled out of court. And they were to pay, I think, 800 million. 50 million. 800 and something million dollars. And in that process, he was also voted out. This government now came. I wouldn't know why this government now refused to pay that money that had been agreed upon out of court. They're now saying you have to go back to court and look at where we are. But Daily Times has now put in something there. Is it a fraud? I think that is what we now have to look at. Because if somebody that was supposed to make so much from a business deal, and out of our own listing, we cut off the business that we have already signed, the contract we have already signed, and then we have to pay them this, and they say, okay, because of our future relationship, let's settle out of court. And you have to pay 800 million. And somebody now decide to go back to court. I wouldn't know why. I think that is what Nigeria now needs to know.
Questions that
we need to know. And you know the court judgment? The court judgment now says that, look, if Nigeria should refuse to pay, you can confiscate all their properties in UK. If that one is not enough to offset that debt, go to US, go to EU, and confiscate as much as you can.
And that is worrying.
It's worrisome.
Gentlemen, that is worrying because when we even look at what $9 billion represents, you know, in the nations.
Naira.
Exactly, in Naira.
Our budget
critical,
for many years.
And when you now look at the percentage in the whole of our foreign reserves, and like Doctor said, Dotso, the company is even going on to look for how it will seize any of Nigeria's assets. I mean, this is a real food for thought. But like another issue I also want you to look at is this issue of continuum in government. We're looking at 3 governments in view now: the Yaradua, Jonathan, and the Buhari administrations. How that, you know, deals like this, the body language of successive governments in taking on deals that were sealed previously.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're really running a federal government. What we're trying to do is a people's administration. When you have Jonathan, you call it Jonathan administration. When another person comes on board, I'm not sure we're seeing it as a government. And that's why there's a serious mistrust. I doubt whether I would do anything differently from what this present government had done if I'm the president.
Would you be suspicious?
Of course I will, because if you look at the company for instance, I learned that the company was registered, I think, around 2006. Seemingly with the intention of getting this contract.
Deal.
If you Google, you discover that you hardly find anything substantial about the company. So you begin to suspect the last administration. I am just thinking that, oh, was it deliberate? Was somebody deliberately bringing this agreement on board with an intention to stop it midway so that they can get their 6.5 billion naira 20-year gain
for the period.
So you begin to think like this. I doubt whether this government, in all honesty, I doubt whether I would do anything differently. Because if you look at the history of Nigerian people, especially people in government, unfortunately, we have been so desperate for money to the point that we can go to any length. Now, I didn't read the report you were referring to, Doctor. If I had read that report, perhaps I would have had a different opinion. But now, the fact that even we have people saying that there were a lot of people that were against the agreement in the first place. And somebody said, no, we have to sign it. Shows that either we like it or not, there may be something fishy.
There was.
And the intention of the government to go back to court really is because perhaps they could get anything out of it. It's not easy, Kemi, to now pour out $800 million.
No, but it's not easy. The money has now more than doubled.
We may be forced to pay more. It's quite unfortunate.
You see, if
and
I
this is
were,
what we say.
This is not even double. We're talking about from an 850 million
you see,
concept
The
to
initial
9
gain,
billion.
let me quickly make this point. The initial profit calculated was around 5.6 or 6.5 billion dollars.
Yeah.
It's the 7% interest or percent increase on the payment that led to this 9 point this thing. Right. But if you do not trust the entire agreement,
you see,
I doubt whether you want to pour out 800.
The issue is this.
It's a failure of government, not doubt.
I can understand where you are speaking from.
Yeah.
But the issue is this. We need to reduce our losses. This government ought to have gone further, do the investigation after seeing that this thing has been done. There has been an infraction since late
Especially within the 5-year period.
It's supposed to have go further towards settling out of court in a way to reduce the 800 million.
But now we're having interest.
Look at what it is.
We're having interests, you know.
Interest upon
gentlemen, I'm afraid we can't.
It's all about fraud anyway among them.
We can't discuss this any further because of you know, major time constraints now. I'm afraid Dr. Dayo Kayode and Dr. Ojo, I thank you both you know, for taking a bite at this big story. Indeed, more will certainly be unraveled as we go forth, especially as we understand that the arbitral panel had a Nigerian Chief Bayo Ojo on it, and he had his say too. Thank you very much again, gentlemen.